I now welcome Emma Reardon to get ready to come up on stage. Emma will be graduating from her Master of Nursing Science at the University of Melbourne. That was at the end of 2020, and will be undertaking her graduate nurse year. So you must be first an undergraduate master's. Hold on, Emma. Emma, and it's probably the work of Wendy, I'm not sure where she is, she's still in a meeting. Emma was inspired to pursue nursing following healthcare work experience placements during her Bachelor of Science, in which she saw the incredible impact that nursing could have on patients and their loved ones. And one of the things that I think is really important in that actual introduction is that in our clinical environments, when people are there for other reasons, how wonderful that you would convert or come into nursing. We never know who's watching and who we're making an impression on, and I love that Emma has included that in her bio. Emma describes a vision of a future where nurses are empowered to ensure that a holistic health approach is available for all patients, and where nurses play a strong leadership role within the Australian healthcare system. Throughout her undergraduate and postgraduate degrees, Emma volunteered leading a team of peer university students to design and deliver health education workshops to enable disadvantaged youth to combat preventative health issues prevalent in their communities. These experiences certainly deepened Emma's drive to become a future nursing leader, and we're seeing that in all of our leaders that are presenting today. And she's very proudly an emerging nurse leader within the Australian College of Nursing, completing her leadership journey. Emma, come up and talk about your experiences. This is going to be another interesting lens that we get to look through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kylie, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners and the true owners of the land on which we gather today, and I pay my respects to all elders past, present and emerging. It's so incredible to be here, and I feel very privileged and very honoured to be amongst such incredible leaders, and I thank the ACN for hosting me here today. Last year started as any other. I was in my final year of my nursing studies, eager to polish my nursing skills, finalise my clinical placements, and secure the grad year of my dreams. It was quickly apparent that my graduating year would not follow the traditional path. By March, our university had moved to online learning, all of our laboratory classes had been cancelled, and our clinical placements hung in the balance. In April, the hospitals began recruiting student nurses to work as support staff in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. For myself and many of my peers, this was an opportunity we couldn't pass up. It was a golden opportunity, not only to consolidate our nursing skills, but also to feel a sense of fulfillment in helping out during possibly the greatest challenge to healthcare in our lifetime. I didn't think twice about becoming a registered undergraduate student of nursing, or RUSON. It all happened so quickly. I remember I applied on the Monday, I was interviewed on the Friday, and I was on the wards the following week. When we first started, there were cases here and there in Australia, but nothing like the visions we were getting from overseas in places like Italy and Spain. We were waiting, anticipating what was to come. And unlike the rest of the world, we had time to prepare. The training we received was incredible and unlike anything else I've ever experienced. We practiced donning and doffing PPE, we ran code situation drills and workshopped workflow procedures for hours. Any questions we had or barriers we faced were documented and solutions were workshopped very quickly. It was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I felt so lucky to be included in such a relevant and purposeful practical training. As the months went on, the sense of anticipation remained, decreasing slightly with every zero-case day that passed. Then, by July, in Melbourne, the COVID-19 wave we had been preparing for was upon us. It started slowly at first. One patient came up to our ward with shortness of breath and an extensive respiratory history. They were placed in an isolation room as a precaution, and sure enough, they were COVID positive. Then all of the isolation rooms on our ward were filled with COVID positive patients, then half the ward, then the whole ward, and each stage happened more quickly than the last. It felt ever-changing. PPE policy was changing on our shifts as more information about how the virus spread came to light. In mid-July, I was furloughed for 2 weeks as a close contact of a positive patient. When I came back, the ward was completely different. Many regular staff had been furloughed and some had tested positive to COVID. On the Thursday of my first week back after working 3 shifts, I had my regular asymptomatic COVID swab at work. On the Friday evening after my shift, I started feeling really fatigued and I thought, well, I've just worked a whole shift, we were wearing PPE, maybe I'm just tired. And then at about 8 p.m, I developed a sudden cough. I actually remember feeling really silly and saying to my friends on our Zoom call that I felt really silly getting a cold when my colleagues were testing positive to COVID, and I thought it was classic that I would just get a silly cold. The denial was real. The next morning, I phoned the testing hotline and explained the situation. They advised me that my Thursday swab was actually negative. But given that I developed new symptoms, we decided it was best that I get retested. And luckily I did, because that Saturday morning test, just over 24 hours after my last swab, came back positive. I was scared. I immediately thought of my family. My father, my mum, my sister, my partner, all the shopkeepers and all the patients that I'd seen over the past week. I was worried not for myself, but for them. What if I had unknowingly exposed them to this deadly virus? I was confused. How could I test positive just 24 hours after a negative swab? Did people know that this was possible? To me, it just demonstrated the unpredictability of the COVID-19 virus. I was immediately offered a room at the Hotel for Heroes where I could stay safely away from my loved ones to protect them. I received the call telling me I was positive, the hotel was organised, and I was there within 2 hours. It all happened so quickly. And I truly believed that as a young, healthy person, COVID would have been nothing more than a cold for me. I was sorely mistaken. For days, I was bedridden, unable to walk in a straight line due to severe vertigo, unable to take a shower standing up without blacking out, barely able to hold my phone up long enough to send my mum a text to reassure her that I was okay. I was unable to speak in complete sentences without losing breath, and this speech would have been impossible. I'm so grateful to the Hotel for Heroes program for hosting me, and to the hotel manager Candy, whose sing-song voice announcing that my dinner was served every day was the highlight of my time there, brightening my day. I spent a total of 19 days in hotel quarantine, and they were some of the loneliest and sickest days of my life. When I returned to work, it was devastating. COVID-19 had ravaged the hospital, and the loss of patient lives was incomprehensible. When I signed up to work during the pandemic, I knew what I was signing up for. But what struck me was that these nurses working on the COVID wards, they hadn't signed up at all. They had been working their regular nursing jobs on their normal wards, and then overnight, these wards had become pandemic hot zones. And what amazed me was the selflessness of those nurses. I think in times like those, emotions run high. We were scared. We were dealing with something completely unknown, and I actually think it can be natural, even automatic, to become angry, stressed, and blameful about the chaos and trauma you find yourself immersed in. But those nurses carried no air of negativity. There was a strong culture of rising to the challenge, supporting one another, and most importantly, putting our patients first. Though I was sick myself at the height of the infections on our ward, where patients were most unwell and daily patient deaths were common, upon my return, I heard stories from my colleagues about their dedication to their patients. One of the most horrible things about COVID-19 that Emma also touched on is that families are unable to visit their dying relatives. The nurses on my ward would spend hours sitting with their dying patients, holding their hands, ensuring they weren't alone in their final moments of life. The nurses would try their best to facilitate communication with the family through video calling on iPads. And though loved ones were not able to visit, I can guarantee none of the patients on that ward were truly alone. a nurse would have been there, comforting them, providing their best patient care at their most unwell. Many people have asked me, as a student, if my experience with COVID-19 changed my mind about pursuing nursing. But for me, this experience highlighted the importance of nurses in providing high quality and compassionate patient care. It demonstrated how incredibly resilient nurses are and how they're willing to put their own fears and anxiety aside for their patients. My experience makes me immensely proud to have joined such a brilliant, selfless, resilient and caring profession this year as a graduate nurse. To me, the future of nursing is bright, and I'm so glad to have started my journey. Thank you.
Emma, we've heard truth all morning, and yours brings a different perspective and a different version. And I got goosebumps listening to you. I can't imagine what you've been through, knowing that as professionals, we always know we're going to be there for someone, and then in your hour of need, you have 19 days isolated and on your own, and still the courage and the conviction and the dedication to pursue this profession. As a first year, we've all been first years, and ours looked very different to yours. All I can say is I hope you journaled, because you will be, you are the future, you are the present, and what you went through, and other colleagues like you, in saying that you chose what you signed up for. I'm not even sure any of us did in that way, but that the nurses were already there. I just think shows that we have in early career nurses, I know before you described yourself as younger, but I would say early career nurses, this incredible integrity and everything that has made our profession in the past with respect and regard is right here now, as at present and the future, taking us into the future. And I want to put out an extension to you of your learnings, and anything that you think that we can do better as a profession, you've got an open ticket to talk to us to make the difference. Because the Victorian experience is very different from the Northern Territory and from other experiences. And it is just a matter of, I won't say luck because we'll get into a big debate, but it really is the effects on the people that work in the system. So with all of our love and all of your courage, we say thank you. And thank you for sharing that personal story.